So in my last video, I explained why I started getting into solo gaming, and it seems like I'm not the only one who is struggling to find time to actually play some games these days. And in that video, a lot of people commented their favorite games to play. So I thought it would be cool to do a video and put all of those recommendations into a list so that I can share all of these recommendations without you having to dig through all of those comments. Now, a lot of these games I've never played, and some of them I didn't even know about, but I certainly plan on checking out a lot of these because they sounded really cool, and a lot of people seem to think that they're worth playing. Now, these are in no particular order. I just started going through the comments and listing them as I went. Because there were so many games to cover in this list, I didn't go into real great detail for each one of them. I'm just kind of doing a brief overview and just letting you know about each one. But I highly recommend that you look further into any of these that look particularly interesting. To me, I think they all look interesting, and I hope to acquire some of these in the near future. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So the first one I want to look at is Space Weirdos and Sword Weirdos. Now this is basically the same game, but one is sci-fi based, the other is fantasy based. And this is meant to be a light skirmish game that's easy on the rules. They don't hit you with a whole lot of details. They have a unique dice system where you're using D4s, D8s, D10s. The game is miniature agnostic, so that's great news because I can use a lot of my Warhammer miniatures, both for the sci-fi and the fantasy setting. So I'm looking forward to checking both of these out, and it's really not that expensive. Next, I want to mention The Doomed. And this one I have, and I can tell you that it is a lot of fun. The story behind this one is that basically a corporation or empire came to the planet, plundered it, and left. And when they left, they kind of unleashed these monsters or horrors throughout the world. It kind of puts me in mind of almost a 40K setting where the Imperium comes to a world and then unleashes chaos, and then they abandon the world, and it's up to the inhabitants to continue fighting to survive in this world. I really like this system because it encourages you to kit bash your war band and also the monsters that you're fighting. There's a lot of different random tables that you can roll on to see which monsters you're fighting and what the victory conditions are for that scenario. I love the combat and the moving. I think that they keep things very simple. It allows the game to go really fast, and some of these scenarios can be quite tough. I've died quite a few times, but I've had a lot of fun doing it. You can set up a campaign where after a number of battles, then you can fight the climactic battle to sort of end the campaign. But yeah, I can highly recommend this one. Now, The Doomed is published by Osprey Games, and they also have two other games that I'd like to mention, Frostgrave and Stargrave. Like Space Weirdos and Sword Weirdos, these are also the fantasy setting and sci-fi setting. I have Frostgrave, and I can tell you it's a lot of fun. I've had a lot of great adventures in this one, a lot of weird things that happen. And they actually have a separate book just for solo adventuring. So that's really cool that they support that type of gaming. Now, these are also miniature agnostic, so you can play with whatever you have, but they do have their own specific miniatures available if you prefer to buy through them. Now, I haven't tried Stargrave, but it is something that I plan on picking up in the near future. Other games from Osprey that were mentioned in the comments is Bolt Action and Conflict 47. Both of these are kind of a World War II vibe. Now, Bolt Action is more historically accurate, where Conflict 47 is sort of more sci-fi, but still has that World War II vibe to it. I don't know much about these two games, but I do like historical games, especially those based around World War II. So these are definitely ones that I do plan to check out. I don't know how they would play as a solo game, but I did read that there are specific rules for that. Now, it looks like you need a few more miniatures to play this game than you do some of the other skirmish games, but I think these are worth checking out. Maladum is another solo game that I own, and I gotta tell you that the miniatures are fantastic for this. I'm almost done painting all of them and ready to play. Now, this is a dungeon crawler that comes with a lot of different parts. And in this box, they give you a ton of terrain that you can set up. However, I hear that that is one of the downfalls of this game, is that to actually set it up and tear it down really takes a lot of effort. But I'm excited to get this on the table and to play it for myself. Everything about it just looks really fun. Two other ones that were mentioned are 5 Parsecs from Home and 5 Leagues from the Borderlands. And again, this is where we have sort of a similar game that one is the sci-fi portion and one is the fantasy portion. And from what I understand, these are kind of more designed to be solo games. That the adventures, the monsters, and the events are procedurally generated. So each time that you go through one of these, it's going to be totally different. There's a number of different combinations here. And that's definitely something that I look for in these games. These two games are miniature agnostic, so feel free to use what you have on hand. And from what I read, you only need about 6 of them for your warband. For this, you can pick up the hardback copy or a PDF file. They both look really interesting, and they're both going on my wish list. And of course, next is Warhammer 40k Kill Teams. Now, I've always been a big fan of 40k. I love the lore, I love the miniatures, and I love the Emperor because I'm no filthy heretic. And the great thing about Kill Teams is that it is a much smaller scale from a regular 40k battle. You don't have to have a huge army or anything like that. Most Kill Teams are around 5 miniatures, so it's very easy to manage. And the solo play community for this game is really taking off. I see more and more interest in solo play Kill Team every day, and I just really think that this is something that's going to continue to grow. Now, there were some board games also mentioned in the comments, so I'm going to lump these all together, but people recommended for solo play Zombicide, Halo Flashpoint, Elder Scrolls, Conan, Fallout, and Mageknight. Now, I have a few of these, but I never really tried them as a solo game. However, after these recommendations, I do plan on pulling some of these out and trying them in a solo game to see how they perform. And as with most games that I do own, a lot of these have fantastic miniatures, and as you know, I'm a sucker for good miniatures. I looked around at some of the other board games that I owned, and I realized that some of those are also able to be played solo. But I wanted to keep this video more miniature-based games, and maybe in the future I'll do other games like RPGs and such where you don't need miniatures at all. And of course, I'm going to recommend Mutant Zone Wars. I used a lot of footage in my last video from this game, and I can tell you that the miniatures are fantastic. It's a fun game. It's very light on the rules. It's not very complicated, and you can just kind of keep this one moving along. I have a lot of fun with this game. I want to pick up the expansion at some point, the robots and psionics. If you do, just remember that you need to have the base game first and that expansion cannot be played alone. A game that got mentioned quite a few times was Rangers of Shadowdeep. Now, this book is written by the same creator as Frostgrave, so right there I have a good idea that I'm going to like this one. And from what I gathered, you create your character and then you're set out on a variety of different missions to help progress the story along. And as your character develops, the more and more difficult the adventures become. It just sounds really cool. It's something that I need to look more into and get some more details on, but it definitely looks interesting to me. Just as I was getting ready to finish this video up, somebody mentioned in the comments Kingdom Death. And I never thought about this being a solo game, but good grief, these are some of the best miniatures I've seen in a board game in a very long time. They are absolutely amazing. I have painted up some of these for a commission once, and they were a lot of fun. The game has grown so much since I got to paint these, and there's so many other cool miniatures out there. But this is definitely a game that I would consider getting into just because the miniatures look so great. However, I think that this game is really expensive to get into, so I would definitely want to play test this at least once or twice before I really committed to buying this one. Someone mentioned Space Station Zero, and when I looked into this, it appears to be a sci-fi based miniature agnostic skirmish game where you need 5 to 9 crew members to complete a number of scenarios through a campaign. From what I read, the campaign can be kind of brutal, but I mean, sometimes that's part of the fun in it. It's not really fun to me whenever you can just cruise through a game, so I kind of like a challenge with it, and if I happen to lose a character or two, that just kind of adds to some of the fun of it. I didn't see too much information on this one, so I'll definitely have to do a little more research before I can say if I'm going to pick this one up or not. Another game that was mentioned and that I actually own is Forbidden Psalms. And this one here is really a grim, dark style game. It's just such a gritty, post-apocalyptic, end times sort of game. It's very brutal. Whenever your characters survive the adventure, they usually come out with some kind of horrific injury. But the war bands are just really fun to make. It gives you a lot of freedom as to how to kit bash your miniatures together. And I just love the atmosphere of this one. Now, I haven't gotten to play this one much, but it definitely is on my to-do list in the near future. So I think that about wraps it up. I think that I got most of the games that were listed in the comments. I'm sure that I probably missed one or two. There were just so many comments to go through, and I apologize if I did miss one. If you have any good recommendations for ones that I didn't include in this list, please add them in the comments below. I think we're all looking for great games out there, and we're all looking for new experiences. There's just so many good options out there for solo gaming right now, and it's just crazy. So if you made it this far, I just want to say thanks for watching. I really appreciate all of the support. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.